18th, 2020. I'm Tulio Sergusa, coming in live from Los Angeles, and I'm joined today by Carlos Ponce, who's in Mexico City, a co-host, and Kim Lantis in Hermosillo, Mexico. Welcome, guys. So we're recapping last week's show with Dirk Schmitt, who is the founder and CEO of BizTech. And Dirk was talking about using technology platform for remote or virtual conferences, virtual networking, business networking. And they were doing this obviously long before COVID-19 hit us. But there's opportunities to learn from what's working, what's not working, and certainly the times today are accelerating the need for these kinds of platforms. There were a few things that I got out of that show that I was, interested in, and there were a few questions that still remained with me about how to make it more effective. What came up for you guys?
Well, one of the first things that came out for me was this whole idea of, he even talked about at some point creating what's it called? I think avatars or 3D characters that would sort of represent the attendees in a virtual setting. To me, it's as interesting as it could be controversial, because I got like mixed feelings about the whole thing, because I'm the kind of person who thinks that it's kind of tricky to replace a human being, forever. All right. So, but still, from the business perspective, that's certainly an interesting area to explore. Now that we're all immersing ourselves more and more into virtual reality settings and new technologies, so it can be tricky, right, to balance everything out in the end. And I look forward to be witness of what it all comes down to in the end. So that part of the virtual reality character was like very, very eye-catching to me, to say the least. I look forward to that, see how it goes.
Yeah, I think they look forward to it too. As far as I understand, it's still a work in progress on the BizTech platform, not something that's currently in the works. But I really like the idea. I think I checked out the website a little bit, the video, and it seems to me that it's sort of like a mashup of Google Meet and like a Rolodex, right?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, you get this idea of these conference attendees, and you get to kind of scroll through and send out invitations, and through that same platform coordinate one-on-one meets and things like that. And I think it's really nice. I think the genesis of the product is cool. This idea of sort of, again, this is kind of a common theme that's been coming up lately of sort of leveling the playing field, right? This idea that a lot of startups, a lot of companies might not have the resources or the time to attend a lot of conferences and travel and all of that. And so what it does is sort of cut out a very expensive component of going to conferences, and it makes it more accessible. And I think I really like that idea, even prior to that becoming more of a necessity with the COVID-19. But just this idea of, like I think his title said, the new normal, right? So this idea of online business isn't going anywhere, and they're a bit of ahead of the curve in that sense. And I just looked forward to it. I also look forward to this idea that we were discussing of, like you were saying, how to make this to simulate more of this real human to human connection, right? And what they could do. One of the ideas that they have is the avatars and like a 3D element or a virtual reality element. We talked about maybe even incorporating some 4D stuff, right? To create a sense of community, whether that be t-shirts or, swag or similar meals and drinks or something of that effect that you could do simultaneously.
I think it's interesting, to create solutions that are long lasting beyond the current needs, right? So, I think it's dangerous to think about the situation we're in as permanent. It's not. It's temporary. It will come to an end, whether that happens in months or a year or whatever. It will come to an end. So, you go and build something specific to solve a temporary problem, you don't have a business afterwards, right? But what I liked about what they're doing is this idea that making it more affordable for smaller companies that, one, don't have the budget to go and travel and do these kinds of events, and two, don't have the time. I think more it's a time issue than anything else. I personally would prefer to just get to a specific part of a conference that is relevant to what I want to do and get to network with people during a specific time of that conference that's relevant to what I want to do and be done with it, right? So I think it gives options. And I think there's room for improvement, right? Because there are certain experiences we do have when we go to a conference, such as one-to-one networking with people, shaking people's hands, getting their business cards, exchanging ideas, that I think to date, most virtual conferences fail to deliver on. They just deliver this one way sort of, I'm going to give you information, you're going to listen in, you might be able to be on a chat and give some feedback or ask a question, but it's not really intimate. It doesn't create that scenario. And this idea of using virtual reality and goggles where you could potentially simulate being there and actually meeting someone, I think that's very promising. I think that might have some legs long term. I also think it's important to acknowledge that sometimes circumstances like what's going on right now, they precipitate or they create an awareness for an offering or a product or a service that was struggling before to take flight. And people get used to the disruption that's forced on them. Like a lot of people were very against working from home or doing these virtual conferences or realizing in the past 2 months, like, well, you know, it's not such a bad thing. I actually can be very productive and get everything done and creates opportunity. So, you know, kudos to them. They've been at it for a while, but I think what's happening right now will certainly be a disruption in their favor, as long as they capture some value, like what we talked about, that creates this idea of intimacy that's currently lacking in most, virtual conference networking kind of solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
In their favor or to their detriment, right? To see if other companies want to tag along and create something similar to what they've already been working on, right? Given the current, not detriment, but the current situation perhaps could build more competition.
Well, we'll see. I mean, look, I presented the April 10th. I was invited to go speak at Penn State for a women empowerment conference, women leadership conference, and it was supposed to be in person, and I ended up doing a virtual version of it, and it was a workshop. And I'm like, how do I do a workshop? I usually have a whiteboard, and the technology allowed you to do all those things, and it was virtual, but it didn't deliver on the ability to meet with someone afterwards and answer their questions and have that kind of conversation that you would normally experience. Anything else, guys, that you could think of?
Well, one thing that I'd like to add before we go is that one of the things that I really look forward to with this business model in particular is to see what kind of other businesses might be generated around it and what other business ideas. For example, take look at what happened with restaurants. A lot of restaurants close, right, or are shut down temporarily or permanently. We don't know. But around that situation, other business models started boosting, like for example, I don't know, delivery options, applications, take home, so there are other business models that might be generating out of this situation, albeit temporarily, but it's still the business model might be there for the long run, so I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to watch, see how it all evolves and what other business models generate around the virtual conferences scenario. So let's see what happens.
That's an interesting observation. I would love the idea of having a virtual reality goggle where I'm sitting at a restaurant and I feel like I'm sitting there placing an order for food, getting served, and then as the restaurant starts to open up, you kind of get your seating in place because they're going to try to figure out how to manage that, short term. So you're right. There could be some other opportunities, to give people a chance to do virtual things. We're coming up on time, guys. What's coming up this week, Carlos? We have one tomorrow and Wednesday, or just tomorrow?
No, actually, we have two, Tulio. We have two Dojo Live interviews tomorrow and Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific. Well, first of all, tomorrow we're gonna have Darren Odom and Brian Terrell from the CTO and Sales Director, respectively, at Boulder AI, and we're going to be talking about digital twins, data, not pictures. So that's tomorrow, right here on Dojo Live. And on Wednesday, we're going to be speaking with Dave Jevons, the CEO and founder of CipherTrace, and we're going to be speaking about cryptocurrency intelligence. So there you have it, folks. interesting topics to talk about, and they're all going to be here, right here on Dojo Live, Tuesday and Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific.
All right, see you guys soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Tulio.
Bye-bye.